Welcome back. It's 8:36 in the morning. It's May 30, 2025. I'm Charles. All right, so in another 25 or 30 minutes at least, we're going to be speaking to development experts and someone who is largely a global economic analyst and somebody who also is respected when it comes to commentaries as it relates to government, governance, policies, and programs. We're talking about Nick Agule, is a global economic analyst. He'll be speaking to us on Nigeria's growth and an assessment, and Nigeria's democratic growth and the assessment. Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you. Truly appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all our viewers globally.
All right, at first glance of what democracy is, government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I mean, one would think that democracy largely revolves around the people and what they want. Do you think that Nigerian government has acted in favor of what the people really truly wants?
Thank you very much for that question. My answer to your question straight off is that the Nigerian government have not acted in the way that we demonstrate that we have a democracy. Like I always say, I don't think Nigeria is practicing democracy because democracy is not by name alone. Democracy has ingredients. So to put it in a very, basic way so that our listeners can understand what I'm saying. If you put water, a bit of stones, and some pepper, you can't call that ogbono soup. You have not cooked ogbono soup. For you to cook ogbono soup, there must be the ingredients that make that soup to be ogbono soup. The ogbono itself must be there. The crayfish must be there, plus all other things. So if you are now cooking water, adding stones and some pepper and saying I'm cooking ogbono soup, you are not cooking ogbono soup. And that is what our democracy is. For it to be a democracy, there are certain ingredients that must be put in that pot. And those ingredients are missing. And what are those ingredients? Number one, for democracy to function, because democracy usually, especially a presidential democracy, like the one we are practicing, which we copied from the United States of America, that democracy has three arms of government: the executive arm, the legislative arm, and the judicial arm. The executive arm is the one that has the power of execution. So they execute budgets, they do law enforcement, they build things and things like that. So they have a lot of power. So much power is vested in the executive because it is the executive that also commands the armed forces. They command the police and all the other security architecture. So much power. So in order for the executive not to misuse the power that they have, that is why the legislative arm of democracy was created. And the legislative arm is meant to be a check, to act as a check and balance on the powers of the executive. And then democracy also realizes that there could be disagreements, there could be misinterpretation of the laws, either by the arms of governments among themselves or by corporate entities or individuals among themselves or with government. And that is why the legislative arm of government was created for a democracy to function. And that legislative arm of government is tasked with the responsibility to interpret the laws. So they don't make the law. So this is the division of labor. The legislative arm of government makes the laws. The executive arm of government executes the laws. And then the legislative arm of government interprets the laws. If this thing is working as I have spread out, we have a democracy. So let us now appraise Nigeria against what I have said. Number one, let us look at the executive arm of government in Nigeria. The executive arm of government in Nigeria is constituted by the president and his cabinet at the federal level, the governors and their cabinets at the state level, and the local government chairmen and their cabinets at the local government level. Are they exercising their powers in line with the constitution? As we have it today in Nigeria, the answer is no. Because the constitution says the basic function of government is the provision of security and welfare to the citizens. Nigerians, as we speak today, are they secured? The answer is no. Nigerians today, do they have welfare? The answer is no. Let us go to the legislative arm of government, the one that is responsible for making laws and then having oversight over the executive arm of government. Are they making laws? Answer is yes, they are making laws. Are they having oversight over the other arms of government? The answer is no. Because the legislature, as we have, I don't want to talk about the past. I want to talk about the legislature we have today in office. They have already told us in clear terms that the executive have a blank check with them. Anything the
The House
executive
of
wants, they
Representatives.
will give them. I am not making it up by myself. This is what the Senate president says. Up and down, he says it. You know, they both the Senate president and the Speaker of the House of Representatives are acting as if they are senior special assistants to Mr. President. And the same thing is happening at the state as well. So the very first thing that a president does or a governor does is to pocket the legislature. So they decide on the leadership of the legislative arm of government. So that kind of legislature can never be active. It can never, carry out, perform its constitutional role of acting as a check and balance on the executive arm of government. Now let us go to the legislative arm. Let's go to the judicial arm of government in Nigeria. Are the judiciary dispensing judgment blindfolded without looking at who are the parties to a case? The answer is no. We know this. Even the legislators themselves, like the current Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Ekekere Ekun, when she took office, one of the first things she said was that her priority is to curb corruption within the judicial arm of government. So I'm not the one saying it. It is the chief judge who is saying it that the judicial arm of government is corrupt. You can see it in terms of the kind of cases that they adjudicate on. There are cases that even the Supreme Court of Nigeria has adjudicated upon that they themselves cannot even explain it, right? So if I now look at the assessment of this democracy, as I have just highlighted now, I would say that Nigeria is not practicing democracy. That is my assessment. Anybody can challenge me on that.
All right. There's a lot wrong with our democracy, especially on the African continent, especially for countries that practice democracy. If you check back a little bit, what we used to have in the North, the different types of governments that, we had. In the South also had its own type of government before we had the colonial masters come through. Do you think just maybe democracy isn't really what we should be practicing on the African continent? I mean, if you look at China, look at Rwanda, it's countries that are, you could say they're largely doing well. Must we practice democracy to actually really develop? Should we be looking at another type of government that really fits what we want to do?
Well, for me, I always see this thing as a case of you give a Mercedes Benz to a bad driver and he crashes it. He inevitably crashes that Mercedes Benz. So the question should be, should we now dispense with the use of Mercedes Benz as not a good car? Or should we find a way to make the drivers to be more competent or even change the drivers? And for me, I go for the latter case. The problem is not with the Mercedes. The Mercedes is only being operated by a bad driver. So if we all agree that a Mercedes is a good car, it's a safe car, but the drivers are not good, then we should be talking about how we are going to get more competent drivers behind the wheels. Because those other areas that you have mentioned about not practicing democracy and things are working well for them, as good as that is, it comes with a lot of human rights abuses. There's so much human rights abuses, you know. So for me, as a person, I would still go for democracy because if you look at the world today, it is the democratic nations that are fooling people. So if you look at Africa and Asia, people are leaving Africa and Asia, they are migrating to Europe. And Europe are democracies, right? Even though some of them are monarchical democracies, but they are democracies. Then if you go to the American continent, people are living in South America and they are migrating to North America. And North America are democracies. In the countries of North America, United States and Canada, they are democracies. So it then means that there must be something good in democracies. And that is why nations that are running democracy are doing better and they are attracting immigrants from other nations. But if there is going to be a conversation as to whether we should even be looking at democracy at all, or we should just try and change the form of democracy that we have. For instance, our democracy is the presidential system of democracy. But the colonialists, the British who colonized us and gave us independence 64 years ago, they left us with a parliamentary system of democracy. And for me, the parliamentary system of democracy is more suited to Nigeria because you see, like a parliamentary system of democracy is less expensive and it is more accountable. Leaders are held to account because a parliamentary system of democracy creates two governments, creates the official government in power. It also creates a shadow government. So if you look at what Professor Patutomi was talking about recently, about shadow government, you realize that a shadow government is a creation of law in a parliamentary system of democracy. So the opposition leader is also the employee of government, and his role is to oppose the government in power. And as you can see with the British system, every week on a Wednesday, both leaders come face to face in parliament. Imagine President Tinubu coming face to face in parliament every week, faced by either Atiku Abubakar or Peter Obi, and he's being challenged on his policies. So if that is the kind of conversation we want to have, I would say let's have that conversation. But if we want to say let us abandon completely democracy and take another system of government, then it is better for those who propose such views to put that system of government that they are proposing on the table. Because you cannot say something is not working and you are not putting forward a better version of that which is not working. Because you see, the thing is, like I said, democracy has pillars. If you operate democracy according to the pillars, then you will enjoy democracy. But if you don't, you are not going to enjoy democracy. You're going to have an accident. So, for instance, I mentioned about the separation of powers of the three arms of government. It's an ingredient of democracy. And if you have that, you don't have a problem. Also, you have the independence of the legislature. You need to have that. You need to have the independence of the judiciary. You need to also have that. There is also a need to have the sanctity of the electoral process. Democracy works better when the people decide who their leaders are. Like America decided that Donald Trump is going to be their leader. So regardless of what the world thought about him, regardless of what he was even facing on the domestic scene, including the court cases and everything that was happening to him, Americans still voted for him, and he is their president today. If Nigerians are allowed to choose their leaders, if the people in power today allow Nigerians to choose their leaders, you will see that the democracy we have, even in shape and form today, as we have it, we operate better. Because you know why? If leaders know that my future hangs in the hands of the people, then they are pressured to deliver for the people. If you know that the people are the ones that have the power to elect you or remove you from office, even if you are elected, you will deliver better for them. But as we see, the electoral process in Nigeria is not fashioned to deliver the people's votes. And people are disenchanted with the process. And that's why we have voter apathy. So at the end of the day, we can give democracy a bad name only because we're operating it in a very bad way. Otherwise, democracy itself does not have a problem, as we can see it flourishing in other geographies.
You are right in every submissions of yours, really. I mean, democracy is not a bad thing, given how it has evolved over the years in developed countries. Because I keep asking, really, so if we can't actually look at democracy on the African continent and point at one democracy on the African continent that has worked and worked good, then maybe African continent doesn't really, is not really open to democratic tenets. We have leaders who are mostly sit-tight people who want to stay on forever, who want to pass on the baton to their brothers, their sisters, their sons, their daughters. And to some extent, people want it that way as long as things are good for them. So you would think that, well, yeah, democracy is good, but maybe another kind of government or style of government, maybe quasi-democracy or something might be better for the African continent. Don't you think so?
Well, I have no disagreement with fashioning an African-centric form of government, whatever name it is called. But the question is that what is it going to be? So the proponents that think that, okay, let us have a bespoke system of government made for Africa should put the proposal on the table. For me, as an analyst, I would like to know what it is. What is it that they're thinking about? Is it from the new government, or do you want to become monarchies like you have in some of the Western nations like the UK, Sweden, Netherlands, and things like that? Or of course, you want to have absolute monarchies like we have in Gulf states like Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, and all of that? Or what is that system of government that will be suitable, that will be more suitable for African nations, that will make it happen for us? Given that Africa is the richest continent in the world by way of resource endowment. The problem is that we have been unable over the ages, over the years, to unlock value from those resources and bring prosperity to our people. So if there's any system of government that people who propose this are thinking about, let them bring it forward. I'm happy to analyze it, look at the pros and cons of it. But let me also say that there are bright spots for democracy in Africa. Ghana recently had an election where the sitting vice president conceded defeat to his opponent. That's democracy. That means the power of incumbency was of no value. It was the people's vote that happened. Senegal the other day, the people in power, they were pushing the young man up and down, even locked him up and all of that. And they tried to cancel the election and tried to run roughshod on democracy. And the people stood up and fought. And the young man came out of prison, he stood for election, and the people voted him. He's the one in power there, right? South Africa is running a democracy as well. As you can see, they run a democracy with a very vibrant parliamentary system where people sit in parliament and they actually challenge the government in power. The same thing happens in Botswana, and all of that. If you go to Mauritius, you have a democracy functioning in those kind of places and the African nations. So we still have democracy in African nations, and if those African nations are successful at operating democracy, I don't see why nations like Nigeria cannot.
Okay, coming down to Nigeria, how we have evolved over the years. People's assessments range. I mean, it depends on the divide that you are on. If you are from the South, you probably see democracy in a totally different light. If you are from the North, you see democracy in a totally different light. I mean, you speak to, how democracy works because of the person who leads the country at the time, you know. So for you, how much of ethnicity has affected our democratic principles?
That is that is a big problem that you have just stated there, because democracy actually has four arms of government. I talk about democracy as having four arms of government, which is the three are earlier mentioned: the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. But there is also the people arm of government, which to me is the most important arm of government, because it is the people arm of government that gives birth to the other three arms of government. And the people arm of government in Nigeria is the one that is not functioning well. It's actually not just coming to the table. And part of the reason why the people arm of government is not coming to the table is because of ethnicity, like you have mentioned now. The politicians have successfully, I would say, divided the people along ethnic, religious, and political differences. So we are having this program today. I don't know your ethnicity. You probably don't know my ethnicity. What has joined us here is that we want to educate the public. We're analyzing democracy in Nigeria, and we are doing it very well without knowing where you come from and I come from. But once politicians come into our midst, they will start telling me that you are from a particular country, and they will start telling you that I am from a particular country. And instead of me and you to join hands and have a fruitful endeavor like we're having here, we will not start fighting each other while the politicians are having a laugh. So this polarization of the people of Nigeria along ethnic, religious, and political divide is what is now making it impossible for the people to form a cohesive force to change the direction of the country. Because it is only when the people come together and pressure their leaders that the leaders deliver good governance to them. It is what happens. I'm speaking to you now from the United Kingdom. I am actually in Paddington, very close to Parliament, very close to Whitehall, which is where Parliament is, where the seat of government is. If I were in Parliament and I turned my camera around, you are going to see a lot of people who are engaging in one protest or the other for one reason or the other. The people cannot be left out of the democratic process, because once the people have been pushed to one corner, then the leaders can do whatever they want to do. The kind of things the leaders are doing in Nigeria, the kind of statements that they are making, they are total apathy to the welfare and security of Nigerians is resultant from the fact that the force that should have pushed them into doing what they needed to do is not there. That force is dead, because if I now say, oh, let us protest the insecurity in the country, people from a particular section of the country will start looking at it that, oh, it is the turn of our man or woman to be in power. And me, who comes from another section of the country, is coming to, and then you will not see the fight amongst us. So it is a very dangerous thing that is happening in the country, that the people are unable to come together in a cohesive force. The people need to understand that the fight in Nigeria is not between an Igbo man and a Yoruba man or a Fulani man or a Tima or a Jaw or a Kanuri man. The fight in Nigeria is between we, the suffering masses of Nigeria, and the people who are putting this suffering upon us. Because today, if you go to buy petrol at the station, you pay 900 close to 1,000. Whoever you are going to pay that price. Whether you are from the southwest or from the southeast or south or north central, northwest, you pay that price. If you go to buy a bag of rice, you pay that price. If bandits come here and they start shooting, the bullets are not going to identify who is from the southwest, southeast, or north central, northeast, or northwest. The bullets are going to kill everybody. If you are traveling in a bus and kidnappers seize you in that bus, they are not going to say, oh, come outside. Those who are from a particular section of the country stay in one side, and those who are from another section of the country stay in one side. They're not going to do that. They're going to kidnap everybody. They will kidnap everybody in that bus. So at the end of the day, we are all suffering, and the people who are actually putting this suffering upon us, who are failing to unlock the weight of Nigeria for us to have prosperity. They are having a laugh. Because if you go to Abuja or any of the state capitals today, you will discover that in Abuja, the minister can be, start with the president. The president is from the southwest. His vice president is from the northeast. Are they fighting? They are not fighting. The secretary to the government of the federation is from the north central. And you go to the ministries, a minister is from the northeast, his permanent secretary can be from the southeast, and his director of finance can be from the southwest or from north central. And they are coolly dealing with money that should have come to give us that welfare and security are looking for. They are not fighting. While we, the suffering people who have been thrown under the bus, are busy fighting each other. Go to social media and see how Nigerians are fighting each other, while those who are supposed to have made our lives easier are just having it quietly in the government houses around the nation and in Abuja. So it is one thing that Nigerians must come to. We must wake up one day and say, enough is enough. We're not going to fight each other again. We know our common enemy, and our common enemy are the leaders who are failing to deliver good governance to us.
This particular topic is one that is close to heart, but I mean, just because of time, we just have to leave it here. I want to say a very big thank you, Nick, for your analysis. As always, insightful and very interesting. Thank you so much, Nick. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and I wish all Nigerians a very nice day. Let's maintain a hope that things will be better despite the sufferings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick Agule, all the way from the United Kingdom. He's a global economic expert. So we're back after the short break. Do stay with us.
Save Nature TV. News in your pocket.